Hello, everyone. So, yes, I am Dr. Ellie Cobb, and I am a holistic psychologist. I have a wellness consulting company called Grounded in Gold, which really epitomizes how my approach is to wellness and life, which is a lot of fun and hopefulness and positivity. That's the gold, grounded in science. It's the language that legitimizes things, the language that we all know. And so bridging those together is really important to me. So I do a lot of writing and speaking and consulting, and most importantly, I call myself a human sparkler, and that's something I just kind of feel. And in the theme of the day of like coming up with titles that just feel good, I have been going with that for a while, because my belief and what I've lived and know is that when we can be in touch with this inner sparkle and shine that we all have in us, and that sometimes we know and sometimes we lose, and sometimes it feels strong and sometimes it doesn't, but it's there, that when we can really be in touch with that and know it inside of us, then it gets to like radiate out and it gets to affect the world in a really positive way. And so I've learned after many years of spending a lot of time helping other people and working out here, I've learned that the most important and best way I can do that work is actually by helping myself and turning in and becoming my own human sparkler. So that's my own reminder, my motivation of really what propels me to bring mental wellness out into the world. So I loved what Dr. Willicott said yesterday morning about telling us about quantum leap, usually in science, means infusion of light. That is something I've really taken with me in these last 2 days as a thread, and that's something that I really want to dive into a little bit more and talk about and practice together, is how can we really infuse ourselves with that light and get to know that light that we have inside of us so that we can take the quantum leap. So I am going to invite you all to just close your eyes for a moment. And you don't really have to rearrange in any way, but you can get comfortable if you want. And finding yourself just in any sort of relaxed position with your eyes closed. And just taking a couple deep belly breaths from your belly. And then imagining yourself in a time when you felt really joyful. This might be a time a long time ago when you were a little kid. It could be something that happened really recently. It might be a moment that you just imagine right now and conjure up in your imagination right here. And imagine yourself feeling really light and laughing, playing, smiling. And imagine that your whole body becomes filled with a sense of light, of that joy. It can be any color you want, any color that comes to mind. Imagine your body filling up with that light. And then just notice what your body feels like in this moment. Notice that that joy is inside of you, and it might be easy to access or might be harder. Either way, that's okay, it's there. And then I invite you to bring a smile to your face if that feels right for you in this moment. Or imagine any way you want to bring your joy into your day. And it might be obvious to other people, or it might be something just that's very quietly happening for you inside. And now I invite you to open your eyes and stand up. And what we're going to do is, you don't need to find anything too difficult, just someone who is near you. Someone who is near you who you maybe don't know that well, At this point, you probably will know their name and maybe where they're from, but someone who maybe you don't know too well. And I invite you just to, if you need to rearrange a little bit and just find your pair, just stand facing someone. Okay, so you found your person. If you have 2 people, that's fine, if that just numbers work out that way. And so I ask you all just to quiet your voices, but to make eye contact and just take one deep breath together, just looking at your partner. And just notice what that feels like. And now, I'm going to give you all about a minute to find 1 to 3 things you have in common that bring you joy. Go ahead. All right. I can hear joy in the room. I can feel joy in the room. I'm sure by now you will have found one thing. This is so fun. Everyone has so much joy to share. All right, team. Hold on. This is not putting a pause on your joy. This is just asking you to bring your joy into a seated position back in your seat. And I encourage that joy to radiate and be shared. Thank you so much for just engaging. That was joyful for me just to watch that happen. And we're going to come back to how that threads through what we're going to talk about. And I just love that. So please continue those conversations as you wish as the day goes on. But I want to frame what we just kind of went through together. So I'm going to back up a little bit and talk about something that is probably going to sound familiar to you, but most of us, when we talk about mental health, we're actually not talking about joy. Most of us, when we're talking about mental health, we're talking about our problems. We're talking about how to fix our problems. We're talking about how to feel better from a dark place. Right? Well, we miss a really big part of the conversation. We miss a part of the conversation that's about how to thrive, how to feel well. What about all the good things that are happening in our life? And so I'm really interested and excited and encouraged about a shift we can make in our mindset from a place where we're always just trying to fix our problems in terms of our mental health to a place where we can really cultivate our wellness from within. And there are many ways which we can do that. And in fact, a lot of the incredible speakers have touched on in the past day and a half ways we can do that. Because we have fundamental human likeness and fundamental same basic human needs and wants. And some of them include wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard, wanting to be understood and respected, wanting to be loved, and wanting to be connected to, and needing to be connected to. Connection is at this base of what we all really need to thrive for our well-being. When we are connected, we feel good. We know this. We know the feeling. Well, in science, we say that structure informs function. And the structure of our brain and the structure of our system is made up of trillions of connections. We are a whole system of connections that speak to each other and talk to each other and communicate and connect when they're functioning well, when we have health. So a functioning system is a connected system, is a communicating system. So we know that as humans, we have the immense capacity to be connected internally, and we know that we have the need to be connected externally. And we know that, and now all the science shows, that when we are connected with ourselves, between brain and our body and our heart, just within our brain itself, when we're connected outwardly with nature, with spirituality, with a greater good, a higher purpose, with each other, with community, that is when we really, really thrive. That is when we cultivate real wellness, individually and collective health, collective wellness as well. So this sounds great because we know we have this capacity to connect, and we know we have this need to connect, and all these ways and options we can connect. So I always actually think it's important to talk about what gets in the way of this really fundamental, beautiful, powerful thing we can do for ourselves. So we talked yesterday about some barriers, right? And the really predominant thing that came up was fear. So I want to give a little scientific framing on why. Why is fear so pervasive? So we all have brains. And they work pretty similarly, actually, because they evolved to work in the way that which they do. So we have this back part of our brain, and this is a pretty simplistic way of describing a very complex system, but it is how it works. So we have this back part of our brain. This is like the limbic system. It's evolutionarily very old, the first really to develop. It's also the oldest in us individually. It develops really early on in utero, and so it's fully developed by the time we're born. And this part of our brain detects threat, detects danger, the fight, flight, freeze. It does all that for us. So what is it doing? It's keeping us alive, right? It's really important. And let's think of why it developed so early on and so robustly. Well, back in the day, we're living our hunting and gathering life, and we saw a big, beautiful waterfall to the right with butterflies and lush greenery. And then to the left, we saw a snarling lion that was ready to eat us and super hungry. We're always going to look left. Always. We have to. So it's a survival mechanism to detect threat, to look for danger, to see what? The negative. In this day and age, we're not constantly living with, most of us are not constantly living with the threat of snarling lions. However, our brain has not caught up evolutionarily to how we are living. So it's still searching for danger and threat all the time. It's still looking in our horizon for the negative. So this is what we often call like a neuroscientific negativity bias. It's just our brain doing what it's trying to do to protect us. But now, what does it feel like? Oh my gosh, I got too many emails in my inbox. I'm starting to feel stressed. Oh, I'm late for a meeting. Now I feel a little anxious. I got in a fight with a loved one. Now I'm just feeling really depressed and stressed, right? These things add up. It's a daily thing. And guess what? We all feel it. All of us. This is what happens because of our brain's adapted way. So it's not because we're flawed. It's not because there's something wrong with us. It's not because we're messed up or all these things that we actually often tell ourselves when we're stressed, anxious, depressed, overwhelmed, burned out, all the normal human things. It's actually because we are having a normal human experience. It's because we are actually all so similar and so connected that we are all experiencing the way our brain has adapted to experience life and look for threat and look for negativity. Okay. So that's like the sad part of the story. Now we're shifting over here to where it gets really, really hopeful. And this was touched on yesterday in a number of different ways, which I love, which is we have immense capacity to make change in our brain and our system. We have neuroscience and to show us that neuroplasticity is about how we can change our brain. But then what we also have talked about is we also have spiritual healing stories and spiritual awakening stories that either you've experienced or felt that we know also change the brain and the system. We might not know how to explain it as well, but we know they make profound differences. So we know we have this capacity to shift the way our system is operating. So a couple ways that we can do this and actually intentionally practice this instead of waiting for that great moment, but be intentional about bringing it into our lives, is at a fundamental level, we want to think about how to create safety in our brain so that our brain can then connect. So that's actually what we all did with each other a few minutes ago. We breathed, we took some breaths, we actually sent our whole nervous system and brain, we activated our parasympathetic nervous system, which tells us that we're safe, that we're calm, that we're okay. And from that place, we can connect. When we are in survival mode, we cannot connect. Why? Well, survival is the most fundamental thing, right? Connection is absolutely fundamental for our well-being, but detecting negativity and threat in the world is fundamental for survival. So this part of our brain will activate unless we train this other part of our brain. And our front part of our brain, our prefrontal cortex, is the part of our brain that does rational thinking and emotion regulation. It's what allows us to be calm and connected. But it's really new. It's new evolutionarily over time, and it's new for us as individuals. It's developed later on in pregnancy, and it doesn't even finish developing. They keep pushing the date back. Now it's like late 20s, but we're probably all developing it right now. The point of it is that in order for this part of our brain to come online and be calm and connected, we have to train it. If we're going to learn a new sport, we train our bodies, right? We get ready for that new activity. Well, we need to actually train our brains to learn how to detect good, joy, beauty in our life and in ourselves and in the world as much as it knows how to detect threat. And the really cool thing is that when we activate this part of our brain by exercising this feeling good, looking at the goodness, finding the goodness, this part of our brain doesn't really work so well with this part of our brain. At a fundamental level, yes, they're all talking and working together, but really, you're not going to enter a fight, flight, freeze response if you're really strengthening the part of your brain that is allowing. You're not going to enter it as easily. It doesn't mean you're going to be at risk. I've had people ask, what if I become so calm and connected, then I forget to freak out when I need to? You will still freak out. You will. The brain has robust, old strategies that it knows how to activate. We're just talking about, on a daily basis, we want to be able to do all the things that all of the speakers have talked about, to bring forth your joy, to feel in alignment, to take that quantum leap, to be infused with light. We actually have to train and start to practice this. And it's possible. So there are many, many ways, mindfulness, meditation, all these different forms of chanting and song, and they bring attention, they bring calm, they're activating our front part of our brain, and they're really, beyond that, I'm talking a lot about the brain, but we know this whole thing is connected. So you're not just activating the little piece of the brain, you're activating an entire system within you that gives you so much power to feel really full of light. One thing that was also mentioned that I'm really, really passionate about is the power of gratitude. Gratitude is an incredible way to create literally a neural override in our brain's quick detection of fight, flight, freeze, and threat. So what it does is, think about this. When we're being thankful for something, we have to use this part of our brain. We have to think, I am thankful for being in a room with all of you beautiful people in this beautiful country on this beautiful day. Well, in order for me to have even had any of those thoughts, I had to bring in rational thinking, calm emotion regulation. I've exercised this really, really helpful, great part of my brain. And it's also allowed me to see goodness. And the other thing that gratitude does is it's relational. We don't have to just stay, like sometimes for some people, they can feel that meditation or mindfulness can be incredibly beneficial for themselves, but that it sometimes doesn't connect them to the outside world as much. Now, from that deep place, you actually can end up feeling more connected to the outside world. But if you want to practice connecting out here, gratitude is a great way to do that, because you can be thankful for someone. So it's engaging your outside world. You could be thankful for the ocean out there. So what I would like to ask you all to do is get your phones out. I know usually we're like, put your phones away, put your phones away. If you have a phone, get it out. This is a moment to integrate our modern world into being well. Instead of, a lot of times we hear that all things that are true in different ways, that, technology makes us feel less happy and bad. Let's use it to actually feel better. So if you don't have a phone, that's fine. You can write something down, or you can send it through your mind because it's pretty powerful, so it will get there either way. But if you do have a phone, I invite you to send a text message to anyone who you have their phone number and let them know that you are thankful for them and why.
Be mindful of time zones.
You know what? To wake up to that text would be amazing. So
You don't know my husband.
you don't have to pick your most complicated thankful person. These are some long text messages. Either that or everyone's really thinking hard about who to text, or they're excited they got to get their phone out and everyone's checking their email. But whatever's happening, know that you're able to send thankfulness out into the world. Through your mind, it could be through your device. So take another moment and just finish whatever thankful experience you're having. And you might get a call back. They might be thankful for you too. Quick, go out and answer it and find out if they're thankful for you. It wasn't planted, I swear. So what we've just engaged in is this process of not only changing how our system is operating, because when we think that we're thankful, we change how our brain and our system is functioning. We sent it out, and all the science shows that actually when you receive gratitude, when someone has told you that they are grateful for you, it actually does the same thing. It activates this calm, connected part of our system. It activates our system to feel safe. It activates our system to feel connected. So this is a way that we can really not just impact ourselves, but impact the collective around us. And there are many, many ways in which we can continue to practice the cultivation of seeing the good in our lives, experiencing the inner joy, and giving ourselves permission to do that. Somehow, I've heard a lot at different points in my life and my practice, that sometimes people feel guilty for feeling really joyful. Oh, there's all these bad things happening. I shouldn't allow myself to feel good, or I don't deserve it. And the truth is that you're not actually helping change the fabric of the culture by holding yourself in, by containing. You are going to literally make a radiating change if you can feel and allow yourself to feel joy, because that actually has implications for changing the structure and function of your brain and system, and that will change the people around you. And science supports it, and we all can just feel it. It feels good to be around other people who are choosing to be human sparklers. And I have met a lot of human sparklers in this room in the last day and a half. In fact, everyone I think I've met. This is like a high-quality human sparkler room. So I just want to let you know that you can bring that into the world. It's possible. It's scientifically supported. We can infuse ourselves with light, and that will help us take our quantum leap. So thank you, everyone.